for reference. Okay.
Yep.
We're talking with Doron Weber at the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation. Who is Alfred P. Sloan?
The founder and CEO of General Motors, which was the largest corporation in the world at one time.
And what's the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation?
It's the foundation he started, but he had no children, so we're kind of independent of any family connection or any General Motors connection.
And the goal and aim of the foundation is, and when was it founded? Just tell me.
Founded in 1934, makes grants in science, technology, economic performance, and the quality of American life.
And most of your work now is grants for the science and technology and...
Most of my work,
yeah,
personally. I run two programs here, Public Understanding of Science and Technology, which includes books, radio, films, theater, television, and the internet, and the program in Universal Access to Recorded Knowledge, which has to do with digitizing all the books in the world, making them available to everybody, supporting things like Wikipedia, and taking advantage of the revolution in the with digitization of the World Wide Web.
Want to do my archives? I've got 5,000 cassettes of every rock star for the past 40 years. How's
That's
his
great.
voice level?
Sounds great.
Okay, good. So how did you meet Craig Hatkoff, and how did your involvement with each other begin? And
I think Craig and I met in 2002 during the first Tribeca Film Festival. And we hit it off. We had a lot of shared interest. I mean, Craig has a real passion for science. Most of the film people we deal with are not necessarily science buffs, even though they're always interested in developing programs with us. So I think that was the basis of our initial conversation. And then we just became friends, saw each other a lot through the festivals, had talked about a lot of other ideas, connect with the media and science, and I think Craig revealed to me that he had a passion about Galileo and that he'd read, I think, 50 or 60 books. He devoured everything out there about Galileo. Maybe it's 500 by now, but whatever.
200.
Is it 200? Yeah, whatever it was. And interestingly enough, he had read a book that the previous president of the Sloan Foundation was very big on, called Stargazer, which very few people knew about, which is a very interesting study of Galileo that is a slight corrective to the popular image of him. And I think part of this Galileo musical, one of the many reasons it intrigued me was that it drew on some of those ideas which are not as widely known as the common view of Galileo.
When was the first time that you knew that Craig had written this rock opera? Did he play any of the music for you? Did you have to drag it out of him? How did that work?
That's a good question. I'd have to think back to how he gave me a CD and I listened to it, and I listened to it with my kids, but I don't think I had to drag it out of him. But I don't remember when, we started talking about how to make it happen as a musical. I support theater as well. I commission plays every year with Ensemble Studio Theater, Manhattan Theater Club, Playwrights Horizon. So and when Craig mentioned he wanted to do it as a musical, I said, well, then what we need to do is find a writer, a playwright, because Craig had done the music, but I don't think he was going to write the actual text. So I think our discussions began around finding the appropriate writer to write the book, as they say. And I think Jane had somebody that she liked, that they were going to, Simon and McBurney, as I recall, and that was, for a while, he was the guy, and they were going to get him to write the book, and I don't know what happened there, and Craig got involved in another musical, and he's a very active entrepreneur, impresario, always has a lot of projects going. But I mean, I think this is very special because here Craig is actually the author, is the originator of the material, and it's...
Can I just ask you again, and can you start with that answer?
Sure.
I think this is very special because
Absolutely,
Craig
I can say anything you want.
No, we just want more sound bites. So why do you feel that this particular musical project for Craig is special?
Well, because here Craig himself is the author, is the originator of the project, as opposed to supporting many other worthy things that other people have created. So it's a new kind of role for him. He's more invested in it personally. I think it's a much more passionate and personal kind of project. And for those of us who knew Craig in One Guys, it was a surprise to learn that he actually wrote the music and came up with these songs, that there was a whole other life going on inside that head of his. And it was very interesting and revealed this whole other existence that he had.
Are you a music fan?
I'm a music fan in the normal sense of that word. I'm not a fanatic.
What music do you like?
My tastes are very broad, and they go from jazz to classical to hip hop.
What did you think of the music when you first heard it?
I liked it. It was lively, and it was vital, and it was about something, which is really, I think, what was the most compelling thing. It was telling a story, and it was highlighting elements of the character and of the drama. So I thought it would be a very effective vehicle for getting this story to a broad public, which is a lot of what I do, is focused on taking relatively esoteric kinds of subjects, science and technology, which are not accessible to the broad majority of people, and trying to find ways to make them more friendly, more appealing, more entertaining. And I thought Craig had really found a way into the subject that would really surprise people. I mean, a rock opera about Galileo is not exactly something you hear about every day.
When Craig and I first talked about this, he told me that Dean Kamen once said to him, "Why don't we treat our scientists like rock stars?" And to me, that was an incredibly interesting take on it, because Galileo, the way Craig started to talk to me about it, was like a rock star.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that? Were you the one who introduced him to Dean Kamen, or?
No, I didn't. But I think, Dean, that's a very legitimate question. I mean, you could parse that in many ways. There's how America treats its intellectuals to begin with, and the life of the mind. But what's interesting is that this gap between the two cultures exists across the world. So I've been to Japan and to China and actually addressed this with their academies. They have the same problem. So it seems to be that it's not just about America, but we have a particular version of that where our rock stars usually are the least intellectual in terms of their contributions. There's some exceptions, obviously, but I think it's a very legitimate question, and we supported American history textbook that's now in colleges, one of the four most popular textbooks, that basically tells the story of America, but it gives scientists and engineers and mathematicians a bigger role. And the argument is, who did more to free the slaves, Abraham Lincoln or James Watt? Who's James Watt? The steam engine. The steam engine allowed us to be free of the need for human labor. We didn't need human labor. We could say, oh, slavery, what a terrible thing. That's bad. But when we needed it, because there was no other way to transport goods and carry things, we were quite happy to exploit our fellow humans. Or who did more for women's liberation, Susan B. Anthony or Charles Kettering? Charles Kettering invented the starter motor. Starter motor allowed women to drive. When women could drive, they get away from their husbands and their fathers, and it really emancipated them in a lot of ways. Now, people don't usually think, obviously Susan Anthony was important, but so was this technological development, which gave women a kind of freedom they'd never had before. It's another way of looking at history, and I think what Craig is doing with Galileo, of course, the father of modern physics, of direct observational astronomy, he's got many titles, but he's obviously a giant figure. And we all owe him, we're all his children to some extent. And people don't think of him that way.
How do people think of Galileo? Do you think, what is the perception for just the sort of person who's even heard of him in this culture?
Yeah, I don't know. They might know something about the telescope, and they might know something about a spaceship, but I don't really think he's very fixed. And the more educated people will probably know him through Brecht's play Galileo, which is, again, that's the elite of the elite, but to the extent that he has recognition, I mean, I think Brecht's play did help put him on the cultural map.
In terms of his relationship with the church, when you look at the fact that the church at that time was funding scientists, but they were supposed to be what? Bolstering the church's opinion? I mean, this is, to me, the whole situation where Craig has this different take on it, where he kind of lets the church a little off the hook because the perception was the church was evil. Galileo had truth on his side. And Craig's take was, wait a second, there's more here to this story because Galileo didn't have the proof and he was a rogue. Scientists need proof, and he conned Pope Urban. What's your take on that?
Well, I first of all, one has to leave it to the historians to make ultimate determination, but I think Craig is closer to the mark the fact is that the Catholic Church was the biggest funder, the biggest foundation supporting science in the world. And so a lot of these discoveries wouldn't have been possible without them. And it's also true that the Pope knew a lot about science, a lot more than most people do today. They read Galileo's work closely, they were interested in it, and I think there was a kind of understanding that you continue finding the truth, but there's a difference between knowing what's going on and going public with it. And I think that's where a lot of the drama came out of, at least in the version that I recall. I don't know where it's at now, that they understood what he was doing, they supported him, they helped him, but there was this tacit or not such tacit understanding that do not embarrass us in public and go and say something that's going to make us look like we're, behind the times. And then there's a question of exactly when he did that and if he could have taken another route or not. But I think the important thing is that the story is more complex than we think about. And by retelling the story and taking a slightly new angle, Craig is bringing a fresh approach and appreciation to what it was that was really at stake here, because the stakes were enormous. Arguably, we're still dealing with the repercussions of that. Darwin, the whole question about scientific method, question about creationism, stem cell research, all of these issues are still with us today, and they go back to Galileo on this question of science, empirical observation and experimentation, and separating truth that you observe in the real world as opposed to something you receive from on high, from some authority.
Okay, number one, do you need me to get more like sound bites and try to get
Shorter?
more edited answers, or are you cool with this?
This is pretty good.
Okay, is your throat, do you need to clear your throat?
No,
Do you
I
need
always
water?
sound like, I
You
always
do?
sound like
Okay.
that. But I mean,
All right.
yeah.
Okay.
You want me to talk in shorter?
Just,
Yeah.
no, I mean, it's really interesting and it's fine with me. It's just I don't know if you need it more chopped up.
I think
Yeah.
the last couple are like perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's sort of you're synthesizing.
I mean, I just don't want to
Yeah.
cut him off,
Okay.
so, okay.
I do clauses so you can chop it in places.
Yeah. Okay. Talk a little bit about the performance in the evening at the Asia House and your involvement in that.
Well, I
How
arrived
did
late.
I don't mean
Cut
that
that
night necessarily. I mean just in general. Is he still in the shop the same way?
Yeah,
or?
you can sit up straighter.
Sorry.
Okay.
Whoops.
Whoops.
What was
Can
that?
we fix the sound? It's
Yeah.
okay.
Did I
It's
just
your mic.
destroy something?
No, it's just I don't want it to show.
Yeah. So,
Wait, hold on.
no, I'm just going to say you're obviously an experienced interviewer. I
38
just discovered.
years.
Yeah, no, but you
50
you're
hours
going
with
into
John
like.
Lennon and
Okay, yeah, because you're
every single
definitely.
musician in the
I'm
world.
in the hands of a pro. You're
Thank
just
you.
kind of doing it very conversationally, but you're actually
Yeah,
hitting
no,
all
that's-
your.
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I didn't.
So-
I only know you as someone I met.
Yeah, well,
you know.
I'll tell you later my story. But anyway, go ahead. So the Asia House evening, how did that come about? Just the whole merging of with the Kalal Foundation or
Oh
whatever.
well, that actually
I'm
Kalal.
I'm sorry,
just
what's
want
up?
to- Yeah, I don't have much to say about because.
Well, you don't have to. I just want to know
Yeah.
how the evening came about and your involvement in it.
Yeah.
Weren't you involved in that?
No,
evening?
I just attended.
Oh, I thought the
Yeah.
Sloan wasn't the Sloan Foundation
No.
part of that?
No, not in that evening. Although Doron had a long-standing commitment,
Yeah.
and we did it. I just while
Yeah.
we're waiting.
Yeah, just tell me.
I just want to.
Yeah, you can remind me where.
Yeah, a couple. One, going back to Ralph's the introduction. He's the one I'd heard of Stargazer.
Oh,
I
he
had
got you to
read
read it,
and he got me to read it.
and then you read it and came
and
back.
then I read it, and then ultimately, then that became
and
the
corrected
name
me. Okay.
because that was probably
Thank
the
you for
best
correct-
thing out there.
Yeah.
Do you want to say that again, or
That
just
might
forget
be-
it? We
I
won't
I
use
can
that.
change that. Yeah.
Okay, maybe that might be, and then I
Okay.
think we met in 2002, and I believe I went off to. We hired a dramaturg. You had heard the music, and we did a 40-page treatment that I think I sent to you finally in the summer of 2004.
You did.
I think so. And
This is all ancient history. I've been
I'm
pushing.
just
No, it's not that. It's like
Oh.
how long have I been nudging you about this? It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
goes back. Wait,
Wow.
when did you first write it? I mean,
well,
12
we
years
put
ago?
the treatment
No, I'm
down.
talking about the music.
Oh, I remember you did give me. Yeah, with the music you
We
gave
did-
me
yeah,
it.
you-
Right.
you said
Right.
it'd be
I did
great
read
to have
it.
a treatment.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the idea was
Yes.
to help find
Yes.
the grant to go find the book.
Yes.
But we had a treatment because it's just.
I remember.
it's
Now
not-
I remember.
So
Yeah.
do you need
Okay.
him to say this again?
Either way, I just
About the
want to refresh.
Stargazer, if he wants me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
Okay.
right.
Because of the name
Yeah.
Stargazer.
Okay, go ahead.
If you
Yeah.
can move your chair just like a couple inches
Yeah.
towards me.
Yeah, no, I can,
Towards-
and I
towards
can
me?
actually,
More towards the camera, really.
I can,
Hold on. We okay?
Yeah.
We see
leans
science,
no, this
we
is
see
perfect right
One,
now.
one last refresher, because
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
so
please,
crisp
please,
in
please.
my mind. I was meeting with you